Welcome to the program today. My name is Mondo Gonzales. I'm here with an archaeology update with our international correspondent, Aaron Lipkin from Israel. And he is here to join us through Skype. Welcome, Aaron.
Shalom, shalom. Blessings from Israel.
It is so glad to have access to you and all the things that are going on the ground there. And there's always a lot going on in Israel, even in the wintertime. And we want to talk about several things that really you have firsthand experience with. And we've talked on the program before about Joshua's altar and other things, Mount Gerizim, Mount Ebal. And so what I'd love to do today is really talk about some of the things that are happening there, kind of behind the scenes. One of the first things you and I had talked about was the cistern. Let's talk about, for those that might not know, what is a cistern and where is it and what's going on?
Okay. So, water is very important. Water is life. And one of the problems in the Bible, when the Bible describes the land of Israel to the Israelites that are coming out of Egypt, God is saying to the Israelites, the land of Israel is not like Egypt. It's not a land that a river, a big river, the Nile, flows through, and water is always there. Water, you can always use the water of the Nile to irrigate your fields, to drink. The land of Israel is special because God's providence, God's eyes are always in the land from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And this is a land that drinks water from the sky. We don't have, rivers that flow all year round except the River Jordan. But most of Israel doesn't have any major rivers. Our water comes from rain. And so during the ages, the settlements, the villages, the cities were built close to springs, water springs that are all over Israel. And much of the water was also collected from the rain that fell during wintertime. So cisterns, water cisterns, are one of those ways to collect water, and the ancients would dig these cisterns in the ground, put special plaster that would prevent water from running away from that water hole, that water cistern, and then use it until it dries up. So you find a lot of water cisterns all over Israel, specifically in cities and villages. And one of the things that always puzzled me is, if Joshua's altar is such an important site, a place that wasn't just used for a one-day ceremony of blessings and curses, as it is described in Joshua 8, but according to archaeology, a place that was used for many years. Actually, Professor Adam Zertal says 70 years, then there has to be a water cistern there that is used by the high priesthood and the people that are coming there on pilgrimage. So, I was always wondering about that. I really never, invested a lot of energy in that. And about a month ago, we received very troubling reports that the Palestinians damaged the altar itself. Now, the altar is very dear to me. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that, I had to come immediately to check. And this is the second time that the altar compound is being hurt, being damaged by Palestinians. I think maybe 4 or 5 months ago, a Palestinian contractor came and just took stones from the footprint structure around the altar to be used as gravel for a nearby road that's being paved. So that was about a half a year ago, and now the altar itself was damaged. So I went there immediately with a good friend, a young lady by the name of Abigail Levitt, an American archaeologist, and we went to the altar. We saw the damage. We reported it immediately to the authorities, and we're going to talk a bit about damage to archaeological sites later on. But while I was documenting the damage to the altar, my archaeology friend Abigail, started just, walking around inside the compound, doing what archaeologists do best, and that is to look for pottery, to look for, archaeological remains in the compound. And suddenly I hear her screaming, "Aaron, come here!" So I looked at her and I was like, "What's going on?" And I went there, and when I approached her, I saw that she was standing near a big entrance, a hole in the ground that I've never noticed. I mean, every time we went to the altar, it was always to see the altar. We never really looked around at the rest of the compound to see what's there. And what Abigail discovered was the entrance to a water cistern. And we were very excited about that. And we immediately sent pictures to a number of people that we know that that care about the altar and care about the site in general. And they immediately arranged another delegation with Professor Amos Frumkin, who is a very experienced scientist that specializes in tunnels and underground cisterns. And they went inside. They took a piece of the plaster that was plastered around the cistern. What we're basically doing right now is we're sending the samples to Oxford University, where they're going to carbon date it. Now, for our viewers, carbon dating is one of the ways of dating organic materials, and that way we can know when that plaster was plastered on the walls. And we have a very good feeling that the dating that we're going to have is going to be from the Iron Age, period. In other words, we hope that the carbon dating will show that the cistern was dug during the time that Joshua's altar was built and used. And if that's the case, then the cistern was for sure used for worshiping worshiping needs. And if that's the case, then this is a big discovery.
Yeah. Now, when Dr. Zertal, when he did surveys, did he have did he see that cistern at all? Was it mentioned in any of the surveys?
That's a good question. And I asked the student of Professor Zertal, Dr. Shai Bar, if he recalls any mentioning of such cisterns in the compound. And he said that as far as he recalls, the answer is no. But I did speak to other archaeologists, and they said that they do recall mentioning 2 cisterns in Adam Zertal's report in that compound. So we still need to dig up all the documents from the 1980s and see exactly what Zertal found, because I'm pretty sure that he spent a number of excavation seasons from 1982 till 1989 in Joshua's altar at that site. So I'm sure someone saw it. The other option is that nobody saw it. And the reason why we found it is because sometime between the 1980s and today, there was a robbery. Many of our viewers should know that robberies are being done in archaeological sites constantly in Israel, mostly by Palestinians who want to find, coins and other archaeology treasures in ancient sites. They just come during the night, with a JCB, like a tractor. They just, for archaeologists, it's crazy. I mean,
I know. It's like, oh no, it's the worst thing.
They work so delicately, trying to find each layer and see what's inside every layer, and then date the layer to know exactly from where the pottery is. They just come in with tractors. They shovel everything out with metal detectors, and they're trying to look for and anything valuable that they could sell in the market.
Yeah.
So there is a possibility that water cistern was dug by robbers. They don't care about the plasters; they just left it there, and anything that was there and was of value was taken. So these are the two options, and we'll need to look at Adam Zertal's documentation. But I think that finding cisterns there is very important, because if the cistern was excavated for the use of the worshiping services, the festivals at Joshua's altar, if we can date it to that time, then that really strengthens the theory of Zertal that site was used for many years and not just for the ceremony of the blessings and the curses.
I'm thinking like an archaeologist. I can't help it, but I got two questions. What were the relative dimensions of it, and did it have water in it?
Well, there was no water in it. And there is an ancient saying in the Jewish rabbinical writings that a cistern doesn't drink water from its opening, but it drinks water from the surrounding landscape that brings the water into the water cistern. And when you stand outside, you see that there are channels that were excavated in the bedrock around the cistern that would lead the water inside. We brought a rope ladder, and we went inside, Abigail and myself, after the delegation that I told you about, and to further check it. And there was no water inside. It was actually filled with debris inside. And it was big. I mean, I would say that it's like somewhere around 20 feet wide. It's really big. It really surprised us. And there were 3 layers of plaster on the wall.
Oh wow!
The first layer, the ancient layer, I would say, was of a greenish, grayish color. And when I spoke to a specialist, he said that color could be used in the Hellenistic period, which is around 300 BC, but also at the Iron Age period. And so, if this is the case, and we can date the first layer to the Iron Age period, and then the rest of the layers to other periods, then it will be very exciting.
Yeah.
And it shows that the cistern was reused during the ages by the people that were there in 3 different stages. But it's really an exciting thing to find.
Yeah.
I joked around with Abigail. I said, we're going to find the Ark of the Covenant down there, or a whole underground city.
Yes.
That was the joke that day. But it's just a water cistern, very simply a water cistern. But it could really tell us a lot about the history of that site.
Well, people don't dig out water cisterns for no reason, and with in the sense of a lack of manpower. It takes some time, obviously, as you know, and for them to do it there had to be a very compelling reason to do it. So that's exciting. I mean, to see anything like that, because then it shows some level of establishment there. That's great.
Exactly. There's no village there. There's no city there. I mean, obviously, the city of Shechem or modern-day Nablus is about 2 or 3 miles away, but it's too far from there. I mean, it's on the slopes of Mount Ebal. There's no ancient city or village around there. Yeah. Yet they invested a lot of energy in making that cistern. Yeah. So you're right.
Yeah, that makes great sense. It's interesting because, I've been to Israel, I don't know, 7 times and brought church groups and stuff. And, you and I have been talking about, we have a trip planned, hopefully in October, depending on the way that Israel's working their rules on vaccination and stuff. So that more information on that's forthcoming. But no doubt that anybody that comes to the land of Israel, that, as a pastor, you bring them and they're like, wow, I just get off. I feel safe. I feel like I've come home. It's really for them, it's kind of a strange feeling because, and you go, well, hey, you're connecting, with the God of Israel. You're connecting with, you're reading the Bible. I mean, the people, whether Jews or Christians, we love the scripture. We read about Abraham and David, and you go to the sites, Kirbet Keyafa. I love bringing people there because there's the Elah Valley where the brook, and I say, hey, grab a stone, this is a collector's item, the one that David didn't grab. And so they feel this very serious connection. And part of that certainly makes it more real, and archaeology has helped to solidify these locations at being certain.
Right.
So, well, let's talk a little bit about the course, because I think some people, they forget that when Joshua came in, the Ark of the Covenant, I mean, we'll talk Shiloh as being one of those places where the tabernacle stood for 300 years before Solomon built the temple. So we have these places of continuity of worship. And so talk a little bit about what your course is going to explore.
Okay. I think that, we're all concentrated on Jerusalem, and for a good reason. Jerusalem is the vocal point, the center of God's presence in the past, in the present, and in the future. But we're forgetting that, before King David brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, before King Solomon built the first temple in Jerusalem, the Israelites worshipped God in several places. And when they entered the land, they worshipped God at Gilgal. Later on, we read that the Ark of the Covenant was at Mount Ebal, at Joshua's altar, during the ceremony of the blessings and the curses. We read that Joshua set the tabernacle in the city of Shiloh, and that the Ark of the Covenant was also at Bethel during the time of the judges, the story of the concubine. So we have several locations, that places of the central, where the central worship of the Israelites was. Those were places that were not only used by the priesthood for sacrificing, but were also used for prophecy. They were also used as, I would say, colleges, universities of prophecy, places where young prophets would be taught how to become prophets, and so these are very, very important places of sacrifices and God's presence in prophecy. Just to give an example, we read about Samuel, as a kid, waking up, hearing God's voice talking to him while he was sleeping in the area of the tabernacle, and he goes to Eli. And Eli says, I didn't call you, go back to sleep. And then Samuel hears that voice again, and he thinks that Eli is calling him again, until Eli understands that God is the one that's talking to Samuel. And this is happening in the tabernacle at Shiloh. And, we've been reading these stories for thousands of years, but these are real places. I mean, I live in Samaria, in Ophrah. If I take my car, go in there, push the gas pedal, and drive northward, 15 minutes, I'm at ancient Shiloh. The place is real. And we almost know where the tabernacle was. So going there, excavating those places, and finding evidence, and finding more things that would shed more light on the biblical story, all of these sites are very, very important sites for Bible believers. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an online course starting on March 6th. And we have an amazing team of speakers, doctors and professors of archaeology, Jews and Christians, that are going to talk about those sites and the importance of those sites to the worshiping habits of the Israelites during the time of the Old Testament before King David. It's going to be a very, very amazing course, and I really invite everyone to join us. They could find more information at biblelandstudy.com. And this is actually the second online course we're doing. We just finished an online course about Joshua's altar. And one of the speakers in that online course is going to be Dr. Scott Stripling, who found the lead tablet. And, maybe I could ask him to share more information on his session on Shiloh about the lead tablet. That's going to be on March 20th. He's going to speak about Shiloh, where he is excavating currently. So this is going to be an amazing online course for Bible lovers, and I really invite everyone to join.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, I really appreciate your time. I hope that people do go and learn more about the history of worshiping God between the time of Joshua and David and Solomon. So that certainly is a good idea. We'll have certainly the website up for people to see. And but again, as always, it's great to have you as our international correspondent on the ground there.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Well, if you've been watching this, we appreciate your prayers, certainly for the land of Israel and for the people of Israel. And again, as Aaron mentioned, just for the protection of these sites. They are a heritage. They really do connect us, those who believe in the truthfulness of the Bible. They connect us with the land. They connect us with the narrative that's found there. And so it points us, again, to the reliability of Scripture. So we appreciate you watching this archaeology update, and we look forward to seeing you next time.